you think that this group of white South Africans should be considered refugees or not?
Who gets to be a refugee in Trump's America? 59 white South Africans have arrived in Washington, D.C. on a U.S.-sponsored flight after the Trump administration granted them refugee status and an expedited path to citizenship.
Welcome! Welcome to the United States of America.
That makes them currently the only group in the world that can apply for asylum in the U.S. With one of his first executive orders, Trump suspended the refugee admissions program, blocking hundreds of thousands of applicants, including from war zones like Gaza, Sudan, Ukraine, and other places. But now his administration is paying to fly white South Africans to the US. The new arrivals, who are from the white Afrikaner minority, say they are victims of anti-white racism in South Africa, a claim echoed by President Trump and his South African-born advisor Elon Musk. Afrikaners are South Africa's largest white group and led the apartheid government, which enforced harsh racial segregation for nearly 50 years until it ended in 1994.
It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed.
But South Africa's government and human rights groups say there's no evidence of targeted genocide against white farmers, and that Trump and Musk have mischaracterized a small number of violent attacks. Data shows that between 2020 and 2024, 225 people were killed on farms in South Africa. But the majority of victims were workers on the farms, who tend to be black, not the owners, who tend to be white.
They're basing their claims essentially on a fiction that white South Africans are being targeted, that white South Africans are disadvantaged by the new dispensation, and that they have a direct fear that they're being targeted in one way or another. Of course, their privileges of the past have been diminished somewhat, but by no means are they disadvantaged by South African standards. And so what we're seeing is, in fact, a claim based almost entirely on a fiction and on random incidents.
Meanwhile, the Episcopal Church has turned down the government's request to help resettle the 59 South Africans, as it's done for decades with refugees in the US, citing its commitment to racial justice.
And white South Africans arrived just outside of Washington today on a U.S. chartered flight, granted citizenship status by the Trump administration. A surprise move because President Trump himself signed an executive order on day one of his presidency, suspending the refugee admissions program, quote, until such a time as the further entry into the United States of refugees aligns with the interests of the United States. So what makes these Afrikaners different from other refugees from war-torn countries like Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or Afghanistan, who have been waiting for years to get into the country?
Well, it's a big question, and it's a key question here. We know that the Trump administration suspended the refugee settlement program, saying that essentially we didn't have space for this. I want to read to you part of what their reasoning was at the time. They said the United States lacks the ability to absorb large numbers of migrants, and in particular refugees, into its communities. They went on to say that this really ensures the appropriate assimilation of refugees. But I've been talking to folks, and they say really this is about race, they think, especially some South Africans who fled after the apartheid and the racist regime there. I talked to some people who told me that they feel like this is the president essentially taking the side of people who are white over black refugees, including in places like Sudan and the Congo.
When I say certain people have the complexion for protection, this is what I mean. These are the white South African refugees that are coming to the United States after Elon Musk lied and spread misinformation on Twitter, saying that these white South Africans were experiencing genocide by the political party in charge. Here's the timeline of events. On July 31st, 2023, Elon Musk tweets, they are openly pushing for genocide of white people in South Africa. Then he tags the president of South Africa and says, why do you say nothing? So as you can see, Elon Musk has been fueling this fire and spreading this misinformation for fucking years now. Fast forward, Elon Musk spends $300 million getting Donald Trump elected. Donald Trump wins. And the first day in office, January 20th, 2025, when he gets inaugurated, Trump signs an executive order ending the refugee admissions program. An executive order that basically says the United States lacks the ability to absorb large number of migrants, and in particular, refugees, because of the availability of resources for Americans. essentially declaring that the refugees coming to the United States were competing for resources against Americans. Elon Musk then uses the power of being in Trump's ear all the fucking time and up his ass and turns Trump against South Africa. Even though the claims of white Genocide are ruled not real by a South African court, literally 4 days later signs an executive order called Addressing Egregious Actions in the Republic of South Africa, where he cuts off all funding to South Africa. Then he fast-tracks white South African citizenship while rejecting all other refugees. Here's where the story gets better. Here's where I say that they had the complexion for protection, because these white South Africans are descendants of mainly Dutch and French colonial settlers who first came to South Africa more than 300 years ago. They were at the heart of the apartheid government that systematically oppressed non-whites. Yeah, they're the ones who get to come here on an air-conditioned plane, walking through the airport, welcome to the United States, given flags for a fucking photo op. Meanwhile, the Afghan refugees who helped the U.S. military during the U.S. military operations in Afghanistan are in dangerous limbo after the Trump administration ordered a pause on the refugee resettlement program. Meanwhile, this is how Black Haitian immigrants are welcomed to the United States. Meanwhile, other refugee populations that are non-white, this is how they come to the United States. I'm not saying that motherfuckers gotta look like their story or look like they struggled, but there's a clear differentiation between people who have valid concerns, valid refugee claims, and seeking asylum versus these motherfuckers that are coming in shorts and look like they're well-fed and look like they have good clothes on their fucking backs. If you really want to deconstruct all the fucking hypocrisy all the fucking way, why is it that the reason that the U.S. refugee resettlement program was scrapped was because the refugees were competing for resources against Americans, yet the literal website that's helping them resettle into the United States is openly saying that these white South Africans are going to receive financial assistance, a one-time federal grant, $1,275 per person, cash assistance, supplemental nutrition assistance program, food assistance, food stamps, housing assistance, medical assistance, work and employment support. And to top it all off, they won't have to even prove that they were being persecuted. The complexion for motherfucking protection.
A group of 49 white South Africans have left their homeland for America after being offered refugee status by the Trump administration.
White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
The South African government says claims of Afrikaners being prosecuted are completely false. One of Trump's closest advisors, Elon Musk, who was born in South Africa, has previously said there was a genocide of white people in the country, but that has been widely discredited.
Racist this new administration truly is. This is some of the most racist shit I've ever heard of. In 1913, South Africa had white supremacists running the country, and they created apartheid, which created segregation and discrimination laws against black South Africans. It was whites only South African businesses, whites only South African movie theaters, whites only South African swimming pools. South Africa was on that racist shit just like America treated black folks. So in 1913, white South Africans took over South Africa with force. White South Africans stole land owned by black South Africans. Fast forward to 2025. Three of Trump's biggest supporters are three of the most richest men on the planet. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and David Sachs are three billionaires that fully support Trump. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and David Sachs are all white South Africans who were born in South Africa, white supremacy, and apartheid. Elon Musk is a white South African white supremacist. South Africa now has a black president. This South African president wants equality in South Africa. He wants the racism to stop, and he wants everyone to be treated equally. Trump and Elon Musk heard about this black South African president wanting equality. Trump immediately stopped all funding to South Africa. There are only 7% of white people in South Africa. But those white people own 70% of the land in South Africa because they stole most of that land from black South Africans. The new black South African president put a new law in place to right the wrongs that were done to black South Africans that had land stolen from them. Just like when European settlers stole America from the natives. Because the South African president wants to give back land that white South Africans stole from black South Africans, that's why Trump and his administration are saying white South Africans are being persecuted and done wrong. But white South Africans are not under persecution.
I mean, the facts are there is no systematic prosecution of white Afrikaner farmers. For the Trump administration to take the view that there's somehow systematic persecution, it's actually problematic and troublesome and damning on the way the Trump administration is receiving its information.
How are they being prosecuted when they the ones who stole the land from black South Africans? Black South Africans are the ones who originally owned that land. What's so wrong with doing right and giving black South Africans their land back? But see, this is the thing. South Africa is not even seizing land like Donald Trump is saying they are. It's a lawful process that's handled in the courts of South Africa. If someone stole land from you and your family, wouldn't you want it back? I did my research and I found out how
So I just saw that the McDonald Trump administration just brought in a group of white South African refugees. And look, I want to be very clear. I don't have a problem with that. If people are in danger, if they're facing legitimate persecution, I'm glad we can offer them safety. That's what a decent country should do. But what I do have a problem with is the hypocrisy. Because this same administration that just rolled out the red carpet for 59 white Afrikaners is the same one turning away brown and black immigrants fleeing violence, war, and political collapse. They're shutting down the refugee pipeline for Haitians, Venezuelans, Central Americans, Sudanese families, people who are just running for their lives. But suddenly, when it's a group that looks a little more familiar, the border opens up, the taxpayer dollars flow, and the compassion kicks in. Let's just call it what it is, selective empathy. Because don't forget, McDonald Trump shut down the entire refugee resettlement program in his first 100 days. People who had already been vetted and approved were left stranded. But somehow this group makes it through. I don't think that's a coincidence. That's a policy choice. So, yeah, I'm happy these 59 people are safe. I wish them peace and healing. But I really wish that we would give a damn when the people knocking on the door weren't white, because compassion should not come with the skin tone requirement.
You think that this group of white South Africans should be considered refugees or not? Because, fun fact, they're actually the only refugees that America has allowed into the country since Trump took office. They've completely suspended their refugee program and even denied entry to people from war zones. So why did they accept 59 people from South Africa today? Well, some claim there is a genocide taking place in South Africa against white farmers in particular, and that the government recently passed laws that allows them to legally take land from white farmers at their discretion. Many white farmers claim that they are being politically and racially persecuted. Donald Trump himself has used these claims when being asked why he's granted them entry when he's refused others.
Farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me.
The South African government, on the other hand, disagrees with these claims, saying a refugee is someone being politically, religiously, or economically persecuted. They are not. Rather, South Africa's president said that the white minority make up the wealthiest in the country, earning on average more than 3 times as much as black South Africans. And according to a government 2017 land audit report, despite only making up roughly 7% of the population, white South Africans own 72% of South Africa's private farmland, while black South Africans make up more than 90% of the country's population, but only hold 4% of all privately owned land. In addition to this, a South African court recently ruled that the claims of white genocide in the country was, quote, clearly imagined and not real. However, the nuance there is that it doesn't mean that farm attacks and murders don't happen, because data from civil rights organizations show that they clearly do. But whether they constitute a genocide or even widespread racially motivated killings is heavily contended. In fact, the decision to class them as refugees is so divisive that it's got the freaking church picking sides. In a massive move, the Episcopal Church just terminated their 40-year-long partnership with the US government on refugee resettlement, saying that it refuses to support Trump's decision to prioritize white Afrikaners over other refugees. So the question is, what do you think?
Madam Secretary, on April 24th, a woman in Louisiana was deported along with her 7-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son, both of whom were U.S. citizens. The 4-year-old son had stage 4 cancer. Now, you just stated under oath that the mother consented to having her U.S. citizen children removed. But I have spoken with the attorney for that U.S. citizen child with stage 4 cancer. She has also made numerous statements to the press in which she stated unequivocally that at no time did the mother consent to her U.S. citizen children being removed. What evidence do you have to support your claim that she did consent?
Congressman, we followed the same policies and procedures.
What evidence
for
do
every
you
individual,
have?
and we
What
have
evidence do you have?
We have
that
documentation that
what
that
documentation
mother,
do you have that mother
We
consented?
will get that to you, sir. I don't have it with me.
Please do. I understand it's hard to keep them all straight because you've deported multiple U.S. citizen children, but I'm asking specifically about the 4-year-old with cancer who was deported on April 25th. For the record, that family was also not given access to legal counsel before they were deported, even though their lawyer was in the same building at the time. I'm holding in my hands here a document called ICE Directive 11064, Interests of Non-Citizen Parents and Legal Guardians of Minor Children. This is the policy for how ICE agents should handle situations like this. It states unequivocally that parents and legal guardians should have the ability to make alternative care arrangements for minor children prior to their arrest or detention, and that ICE must afford parents the opportunity to consult with legal counsel. So, did the ICE agents working on this case who deported this 4-year-old with cancer of their own volition fail to follow ICE policies, or were they directed to by your office or anyone else in DHS leadership?
Sir, this mother chose to keep her child with her.
You have not produced any evidence to say so, but I'm asking again, have you directed DHS officers to ignore this
It's
policy?
very different than the previous administration. The previous administration
on March 15th, reclaiming my time, on March 15th, your department sent 3 airplanes to El Salvador. Those planes carried approximately 261 individuals who were imprisoned upon arrival. Did you personally review and approve the names of those 261 individuals before they were sent?
Sir, we have deported and sent home
Did you review the names of those individuals?
And we have individuals that have
why won't you answer the question?
Within the Department of
Are you aware of whether those 261 individuals were given the opportunity to speak with a lawyer or appear before a judge before they were put on those planes? Yes or no?
Sir, every single individual followed the exact same process.
They were not all given the opportunity to appear before a judge or speak with a lawyer. On April 7th, the Supreme Court ruled that detainees must have an opportunity to have a hearing before they are deported. Are you familiar with the April 7th Supreme Court ruling?
I am.
Can you assure us that in the future you will abide by that Supreme Court ruling to provide detainees with a hearing before they are deported?
Following all judges' orders. Yes, sir.
I have a photograph here of André Hernandez Romero, a gay makeup artist from Venezuela. He fled Venezuela fearing gang violence because of his opposition to the Maduro dictatorship and his sexual orientation. He presented himself at a port of entry and requested asylum. His claim was found to be credible, and he was placed in detention to await a full hearing. But he never received a full hearing because you put him on one of those planes to El Salvador, where he still is today. Listen to me. He had no criminal record in the United States or in any other country. He did not even enter the country illegally. He presented at a port of entry. He tried to do it the legal way, and to this date, the only evidence your department has presented to justify his imprisonment is that he had 2 tattoos, one that said mom and one that said dad. Do you have any other evidence to present for why this individual should be locked up in El Salvador?
Sir, every case is used the same protocols and the same processes and inputs.
Do you have any evidence other than the tattoos that say mom or dad for why this individual should be locked up?
It's not just on tattoos. It's who they're affiliated with, their communication.
You have not presented any other evidence, nor has your department. Reclaiming my time, during your confirmation hearing, you said your focus would be on deporting immigrants who have been convicted of crimes and those who have received removal orders. But that is not what you have been doing. Instead, you have been deporting children with cancer, children who are U.S. citizens, a gay makeup artist who committed no crime and didn't even enter the country illegally. You have been sloppy. Your department has been sloppy. And instead of focusing on real criminals, you have allowed innocent children to be deported while you fly around the country playing dress up for the cameras. Instead of enforcing the laws, you have repeatedly broken them. You need to change course immediately before more innocent people are hurt on your watch.
Today I signed an executive order to launch the first ever self-deportation program for illegal aliens. We are making it as easy as possible for illegal aliens to leave America. Any illegal alien can simply show up at an airport and receive a free flight out of our country. We have also launched a phone app called CBP Home. That's CBP Home, where illegals can book a free flight to any foreign country. As long as it's not here, You can go anywhere you want. We're also adding a very important exit bonus for illegals to further incentivize their self-deportation. This deportation bonus will save American taxpayers billions and billions of dollars. What Biden did to this country can never be explained, will never, ever be accepted. Eventually, when the illegals are gone, it will save us trillions of dollars. However, if illegal aliens choose to remain in America, they're remaining illegally and they will face severe consequences. Illegal aliens who stay in America face punishments including significant jail time, enormous financial penalties, confiscation of all property, garnishment of all wages, imprisonment and incarceration, and sudden deportation in a place and manner solely of our discretion. So to all illegal aliens, book your free flight right now. We want you out of America, but if you're really good, we're going to try and help you get back in. Thank you.
In a move that has sparked widespread debate, the Trump administration recently granted refugee status to 59 white South African Afrikaners, citing alleged racial persecution. This decision comes amid ongoing deportations, including cases involving U.S. citizens and long-standing residents. Critics argue that this selective approach to immigration policy highlights systemic biases and raises questions about the criteria used to determine refugee eligibility. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa condemned the Afrikaners' departure, labeling them cowards for fleeing efforts to address historical inequalities. In this video, we showed the details of the Trump administration's executive order prioritizing Afrikaner refugees, the broader implications of U.S. immigration and refugee policies, and the reactions from international leaders and human rights organizations. The recent decisions by the Trump administration regarding refugee admissions have ignited important conversations about equity, justice, and the values that underpin immigration policies. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us continue to shed light on critical issues affecting communities worldwide. Just a quick note, full credit goes to the original creators of these videos. Stay informed and stay engaged. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.